was really sad. She's a very sad, disturbed woman. And I try not to say too much because I love her children so much, and they are a part of her, but they know that she was involved. It was traumatic for them as well. But it's their mom, so they've forgiven her, and I encourage them to forgive her because it's their mom, and they have to love her no matter what. But it's really sad that 8 years later she has not moved on and would still want to hurt me and hurt Anthony. I know. And it's sad for the boys because you see the relationship I have with Glenn, my ex-husband. My ex-husband comes to the house here. He sits and watches football. He hangs out with the kids. When I was here in Florida last year, scared to come back to New York, my ex-husband moved into my apartment in New York. My ex-husband was in my apartment in New York, lived there, was with my children and Anthony's boys while Anthony was here taking care of me. That's the relationship I have with Glenn. And Anthony's ex-wife is so bitter and cannot move on. And that's where Emily got all the rumors that I had an affair, but we never did. And that's what's so sad, is that that's her belief set. And rather than protecting her kids, she puts that out to the universe. I know, guys. It's sort of ugly. We can change this topic. Anyhow. Oh, thank you. Hi, Cody. Cody Hobson, I have not seen you in so long. And I love following you, Cody. You are just like this bright light. You are so gorgeous. You have such a beautiful family. You're just one of these people, Cody, that just, I think, make the world a brighter place. It's so nice to see you here. What's my go-to wine? Well, that's an easy question. It's Cloudy Bay. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Lindsay, the denim jacket is keen to be seen. I'm going to write that. Keen to be seen. I'll take a picture with it and then I'll tag them. I'll put it in my feed for sure. Hi, Live Naturally Clean F Factor. I saw you was at Disneyland or Disney World? See, I love following you guys. I love following your travels. I love seeing you with your family. That's the best part of this community. Live Naturally Clean. Were you in Disneyland or Disney World? What's the lip gloss I usually wear? There's so many I can show you. You see what this is, guys? This is the new book. I'm so excited. Would you like to hear a little? I won't read the first page because the first page is so good. The first page really draws you in. But I'll read page 4. Would you like to hear page 4? So why am I writing this book? Are we fatter than ever? Have diets failed us? Have people been body shamed for being fat? Yes, yes, and yes. We can lean into all that, but does it mean that we have to give up on it? And I have a solution to the anti-diet movement that delivers sustainable weight management while improving your health. It's called the F Factor Diet. Now, before you get your back up when you hear diet, it's crucial to understand that we misuse the word in our society. Unfortunately, we've defined it as something that's going to be restrictive and punitive, something that is not lifestyle driven. I'm here to explain that the word diet simply means a pattern of eating for man or mammal. That's exactly what it says when you look it up in Webster's dictionary. Nowhere does it talk about caloric restriction and weight loss. It gets better. There's so much. And it's going to be so heavy on statistics. It's going to be so heavy on facts, less opinion, more facts. And I'm going to be interviewing. Sorry. Sea Swirl 918. That's the funniest comment. And you're right. I need to stop reading before the publisher starts to say, Tanya, that's for the book. No more reading, but I am super excited. And once I have the green light, I will absolutely start reading some excerpts. But if anyone here is a medical expert, a gastroenterologist, a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, if you are an autoimmune expert, please reach out to me, Tanya at ffactor.com. I would love to interview you for the book. I'm relying on experts in medical fields to weigh in on their thoughts of this anti-diet body positivity movement and why traditional structured diets are seeing such a backlash, and what their thoughts are on not weighing patients, on people embracing larger bodies. And I don't just mean by weight, we're talking body fat, visceral fat, and what the implications are for our health. So I think it's going to be a fascinating read. I know this book is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. I know there's going to be backlash. And I actually think, guys, it's why I went through what I went through. It's all beginning to make sense now. I had to go through that to get a thicker skin, to be prepared for this next book, which is going to say what everyone's afraid to say. This next book is going to be disruptive. It's going to challenge a lot of the social norms that are existing right now in society. What I'm about to say is not going to be politically correct, but it's the political correctness that is encouraging people to embrace a body size that is unhealthy. And someone has to be brave enough, someone with authority and credibility needs to explain that while beauty may come in all shapes and sizes, health does not. So I actually believe, because I know God is good and I know God loves me, that God has chosen me. I've always known God has chosen me to do his work. I think God tested me. Would I abandon the space? And I came close. I remember thinking, I'm not going back to this, meaning I was considering shutting F Factor down. Hold on, it's getting chilly here. One sec, guys. I'm gonna go to my room. Sorry. When all this happened and I was really weak and vulnerable, I really just wanted to shut it down. I said, you know what? Maybe I've done enough. I've helped enough people in my career. Maybe it's time for me to just focus on being Anthony's wife and being a mother to my children, and come to my desk. This way I could also plug this phone in. Probably should put some clothes on. Where's the phone charger? Oh, I have battery still. Look at my mom. No. My mom raised her daughters to be professional women. My mom, a little bit about my background. Mom, I hope you don't mind if I share this. So my mom, as you guys know, you've heard me say before, is Colombian. And my mom came to the United States for college. And my mom really thought after college for my mom was really like finishing school. So my mom grew up in Cali, Colombia. She went to a private school where she learned English. And even though her first language was Spanish, she learned English. And then my mom came to the United States for college, but the expectation was that my mom, hi Camille, was going to return to Cali, Colombia and find a nice Jewish man there and marry him and stay in Cali. As it turned out, my mom so she came here for college. She went to Clark University in Boston, and my mom met a poor Jewish boy from Brooklyn. That's my dad. And they fell in love and they got married. My mother never really expected to work. in her life. My mom, and if she was going to work, my mom was going to be a school teacher. So she was going to have her summers free. My mom, I don't think ever expected to be like a career woman. And there's no shame in that. I think being a homemaker is one of the most honorable things in the world. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely more work than sometimes going to the office is taking care of a household and children. So I'm not minimizing it. And I recognize why my mom thought she was going to do that. My mom was going to be a teacher. My parents got divorced, and her parents said to her, come back to Colombia. And my mom said, I can't. I have children. Her parents didn't understand that there were like laws and that would be kidnapping. So my mom said to her parents, like, I can't come back to Colombia. Like, I have these children. I was 5 and my sister was 6 when my parents got separated. So my parents sold the house. We moved to a smaller house in Great Neck. At the time we were living in Kings Point. My parents sold the house, and my mom, in order to afford to live on her own, had to go to work. And my mom went to work, and at night, my mom went to business school. And my mom got an MBA. Is that the coolest thing? While raising her 2 daughters. And then my mom became a computer analyst. And my mom ended up traveling all over the world, teaching companies how to use this computer software. Mom, am I telling the story correctly? I think my mom's here. It's her story, so I hope I'm sharing it correctly. So my mom really never expected to become this career woman. And I think it instilled in me in a very young age how important it is for women to have financial autonomy. And I always knew I wanted to work because I knew I never wanted to be stuck in a marriage if I was unhappy. I always wanted also to have something that was intellectually stimulating, something that inspired me, something that a career that allowed me to self-validate through my own success. But I knew that financial autonomy was so important because if my mom didn't have it, I don't know what we would have done. And therefore, I actually thought that I wanted a career where I could have a work-life balance because my mom, as I said, was working during the day, going to school at night. And my mom really sacrificed a lot to raise us. And my mom was not home a lot. We had to take taxis to Hebrew school. We took taxis to tap dancing. We had to take taxis all over the place because my mom wasn't home. And she would come home. She would take the train home to Great Neck. She would take the train into the city and work a full day and come home. And I just always remember being jealous of kids who had stay-at-home moms. I was like, wow, you're so lucky your mom is home when you come home from school because I didn't have that. So I knew I wanted to do it differently. I wanted a career where I could have something during the day to provide me financial autonomy, but when my kids came home, I wanted to be home. The irony is, nothing could have been further from the truth with F Factor. I ended up working till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night all the time. I was busy trying to raise capital. I was busy trying to write a book. I would see clients during the day. I was working 2 jobs the way my mom did, and I actually sacrificed a lot for F Factor, which is why when people came for F Factor, it was the equivalent of someone attacking my child. I had F Factor longer than I had my own children. And for someone to attack my baby, my child, it was horrific. What I would say is last year, watching F Factor be attacked, I felt like I was looking through a glass wall and I was pounding on that wall. And there was my child, F Factor, being stabbed and kicked and destroyed by a mob of people, and I was helpless to defend it. That's what last year felt like to me. And anytime I tried to defend myself for F Factor, I was accused of gaslighting. It was the most horrific experience of my life. And that's why it was so personal to me. And unless you have built a business from the ground up, unless you've sacrificed raising your children for your company, you have no idea what last year felt like to me. And I will never forget Emily Gellis saying I could start a new business. It would take someone who has never built anything of merit or who have sacrificed everything that they value for their company. It takes someone that disconnected from that to say something so insensitive. And just because I'm still comfortable, because my husband's successful, I cannot buy my professional reputation. I had to earn that. And money cannot buy your reputation. Money can't buy success. It takes someone without money and without success to believe that those two connect. When you don't have money, you think money makes you happy. When you don't have money, you think money can buy a career. Money cannot do those things. Money can give you seed capital, but that does not lead to success. Many businesses are well funded, but they go out of business if what they deliver is not valuable or if people don't care about it. So going back to my mom really instilled in me and my sister the importance of work ethic and having careers. And my sister, many of you guys know, she's a real estate broker here in Florida. She is so successful. She works so hard. She has more integrity than anyone I know. She is so honest. And it's why my sister's so successful, because those are the values that my mother instilled in us. Anyway, so I actually thought I was going to have a healthy gourmet shop. I thought that was how I was going to have this work-life balance. When I went to NYU, it was to study food. I thought I was going to study food science and I could apply that to my healthy gourmet shop. I wanted to be Mrs. Garrett. Do you guys remember The Facts of Life? The Facts of Life was a sitcom and Mrs. Garrett had a gourmet shop. And I wanted to be that. I was like, I'm going to have this gourmet shop. And this way, at 3 o'clock, when my kids are done in school, I can pass the keys to the manager and I can take Johnny to soccer and I could take Jane to ballet. This was like this narrative I created in my head. When I got to NYU, I was shocked to find that the master's degree about food and nutrition studies was this clinical education about nutrition science. And next thing I knew, I was taking anatomy, physiology, inorganic chem, organic chem, biochem. I was taking all the pre-med prerequisites. And next thing you know, now I'm this clinical dietitian. So what I thought was going to be a career where I was going to have a healthy gourmet shop resulted in me becoming a clinical dietitian. But all this stemmed from my interest in wanting to balance work and family, because I felt that my mom sacrificed so much with family to work so she could support us. And I wanted to be home for my kids. The irony is, I guess, Mom, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I would literally call my mom when I was married to Glenn, my first husband, at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, coming home from the office, walking home, because I didn't have enough money to take a taxi. I would have to walk home at 10 o'clock at night. And I'd call my mom and she would be like devastated. Like, why are you working so hard? And it's just what it took. And I think that's also what many of you have missed. If you met me last year, you came on social media and you see this extravagant lifestyle that I'm so fortunate to have, it wasn't always like this. I actually started with nothing. I started this business out of my studio apartment as a 25-year-old single girl with student loans. I graduated from NYU with student loans. My father gave me a choice. He said, either I'll pay for your master's degree or I'll pay for your apartment. You choose. So I thought it was sexier for me to be investing in myself. And therefore I chose, Dad, you pay for the apartment. I'm going to pay for school. So I was getting my master's degree, bartending at night, and going to school during the day and seeing clients in my apartment. That's how F Factor started. And it slowly built up and I started to see more clients. And then I still didn't have enough money to rent an office. So I started to travel to my clients. I became the traveling dietitian. And I had a suitcase with my food models and with a scale, and I would go to my clients. And I was working with a very upscale patient population. These people were used to their jewelers coming, their hair cutters coming. These people are used to their seamstresses coming to their homes. So the fact that a dietitian would come to them was sort of normal for them. And that's what I did. I became the traveling dietitian because I couldn't afford an office. And I started to see these clients in their homes, in their office. Finally, I made enough money I could rent an office. The first office I rented was when my husband and my ex-husband, I moved to Florida. It was in Bal Harbour. From there, I wrote the F Factor Diet book. I received a 6-figure advance, and then I started to get endorsement deals, and we moved back to New York, and I was able to get an office space in New York. And I started to grow and take on more office space and hire more dietitians. I wrote a second book called The Miracle Carb Diet. And then F Factor started to grow and grow and grow. And all this time I was working 9-hour, 10-hour, 11, 12-hour days. And that's my story. So for anyone that thinks that this was handed to me, it was not. F Factor's been around for 25 years. I've known Anthony for 8 years. Anthony's ex-wife told Emily Gellis that Anthony paid for F Factor, or somehow, I don't know what nonsense she told him, but when Anthony met me, one of my first dates with Anthony, after we went for cocktails, I brought him back to my office late night because I thought it was going to be so sexy for him to see that I was a working woman. He'll tell this really funny story, which I think you guys would love, is that Anthony and I, we met in the Hamptons at a restaurant at brunch. I didn't remember meeting him though because my headspace wasn't there. We met very briefly. The person that introduced us then followed up with me. Hold on, I'm getting very dry from speaking so much. I also need to put some clothes on. 1 second. I'm trying not to show my body too much. Hold on 1 second. I know you guys love this sweater, so I threw this sweater on. Okay. So Anthony and I met in the Hamptons, and then our first date was for cocktails, our first formal date, because I didn't really remember meeting him. We went to a restaurant in New York City called The Smith, and we met for like a very early cocktail, and I was actually having dinner with my friends. He was having dinner with his friends. So it was so loud in there, I really couldn't hear him, and then we both had to go for dinner. So then I said to him, do you want to meet after our respective dinners so we can have another drink, like we can keep talking? Okay, so Anthony comes to the restaurant where I am with my girlfriend, and he meets my friend Nicole, and then he says, where do you want to go for a drink? So guys, this is how crazy I am. I'm thinking, I knew his ex-wife was a stay-at-home mom, and I think a lot of guys find women with careers like very sexy, so I was like, oh, I know, like I'm going to show my office. This is an aphrodisiac. So he picks me up and he goes, where do you want to go for a drink? So I say, it's a surprise. And I knew that in my office, I had like a bottle of vodka, and because I have like a refrigerator, I knew I would have wine because it's my office and I'm there, God knows how many hours a day. But I knew I didn't have an ice maker. So I said, we need ice. And he was like, what? Like, where is this crazy, weird girl taking me that we need to go get ice, to go get a cocktail? We went to Duane Reade and we got a bag of ice. And he's like, where is she taking me? Next thing you know, we're in my office. He's like, where are we? I'm like, this is my office. And I'm having like this super proud moment showing him that I'm divorced, I have 3 kids, and this is my company. So we get to my office, and I swear to God, he tells the story better than me. He's like, so tell me, like, what's your company about? I pull up on my computer the F Factor education. Guys, on my daughter's eyes, I pull up a PowerPoint and I start taking him through the PowerPoint, talking about the epidemic of obesity, talking about glycogen stores, and he's on the couch like, I just want to kiss her already. Like, when is she done educating me? When is Tanya done with Professor Moment? One day he will tell you the story. I'm thinking that I'm turning him on, and he's like, this girl is nuts. But in my mind, I'm like, what could be sexier than a girl that's passionate about her work, that's independent, that stands on her own 2 feet? I did not want a man to support me. I was not into Anthony because of his success. I wanted to create my own success, and I wanted him to see that I loved my work and I was so proud of what I had accomplished. Anyhow, so he always tells everyone the stories like, yeah, she takes me back, and I think somehow we're gonna have like sex in her office, and next thing I know, she's like doing a PowerPoint. And all we did was kiss that night. Maybe some petting, but that's about it. And he kept coming back for more, and now there we are, Mrs. Weststrike. It worked. Anyway, but hi, Chris. My mom, if you're still here, I feel so grateful to have a mother that instilled work ethic in me and my sister. So, Mommy, thank you. Thank you for making me the woman I am today. And thank you for inspiring me to always have financial autonomy so that you're never stuck. If I did not have a career, I never could have left an unhappy marriage. And by the way, I left with nothing. I just knew that F Factor one day could provide me an income and I could be independent. But F Factor was not profitable when I left. Well, I take that back. F Factor, the private practice, was profitable. F Factor Inc., trying to build the F Factor company, I was sinking all the money from the private practice into it, and that was a disaster. So it was a shit show. Thank you, Mom. And if you guys haven't figured out, Tamara Benson is my mom. I'll pin her. Pin. Hi, Tara. Anyway, so it's one of the reasons that I felt I needed to gather my strength and return to F Factor was because I had to teach my daughters the importance of having dignity, of my daughters needed to know that the truth matters. My daughters needed to see me fight back. My daughters need to see the importance of following your dreams and speaking your truth. And I really say so much of what I came back for was really for my daughters. And I know you guys say, Tanya, you have 5 children. How about Max, Gabe and Toby? It's a little bit different for the men. I think for girls, we often, as homemakers, as the moms, have a choice whether to work or not. Not always, of course, there are many dual income families by necessity, but often, or in some situations, women can choose to stay home and raise the kids. And for men, it doesn't seem as if that choice is as popular. Most men feel like they need to be the primary breadwinners, and I totally understand. Before people start chiming in, there are many couples where the men stay home and the women work, but someone has to go to work, right? Like someone has to have the career, because otherwise how are you going to support your family? And I think many women, being maternal, often are the ones to stay home. And as I said, it's the most honorable thing in the world. I am not passing judgment. I think it's one of the most beautiful careers anyone can have. But my mom really showed us the importance of having a career that provided financial autonomy. And more than that, I think my mom is so smart. She's such a bright woman. My mom never expected to get an MBA. My mom never expected to travel in the world teaching companies how to implement computer software. I think it does so much for self-validation. I think it does so much to be successful at something and be able to recognize that. And this way you don't rely on other people to tell you that you matter. And that's what my career has done for me. My career, my ability to touch people's lives, my ability to change people's lives, my ability to educate and inspire has brought me so much joy. And I was so close to walking away. They destroyed my company. They destroyed it. My sales, I had a team of 20. Most of them left because they thought the company wasn't solvent, or they just didn't want to be tied to a smear campaign. I was depressed. I was anxious. It was hell. And it actually was my mom, more than anyone,
who told me to fight back. Anthony said, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You have helped so many people. It's time to take care of yourself and your family. You don't have to do this anymore. But it really was my mom that said, you are so uniquely good at this, Tanya. This is your calling. Do not let these miserable animals destroy that for you. Because that's what it is. These women, and I can name them all, they did not come from a place of love. They can hide behind their activism all day long. It reminds me of like people that are part of PETA. You can be pro-animal rights. You don't need to desecrate public property. You don't need to throw paint on people for wearing fur. You can do it differently. And the way that these women came for me because they didn't agree with my messaging was cruel. Lisa Hayim, still not forgiven until you own what you did. Rebecca Bear, I will always feel sorry for you. I am so sad for you, Rebecca, how hurt you are years after leaving F Factor because you were hurt when you were at F Factor. And the fact, Rebecca, that it is documented that you made up 30 fake accounts, 30, over 30, and made up false stories and sent them to Emily Gellis, Rebecca, I pray for you. And you are no further along, Rebecca, than you were when you started this. I feel badly for Alexis Barber. I feel badly for Aileen from Diet Starts Tomorrow. I feel badly for Ingrid de la Mare Kenny. I feel badly for Emily Gellis. My heart goes out to all of these women. They're all broken. They're all, I don't know, unkind, no matter what they present. Because no one goes about wanting to make change in such a vicious way. That's what I'll say. So Lisa Hayim, you didn't believe in F Factor, you think it's destructive? You don't dance in your underwear in the bathroom making fun of me and my company. You reach out to me and you tell me you have concerns. You are a child and unprofessional. No registered dietitian should be making reels in their bra and panties. You are an embarrassment to the registered dietitian community. You undermine the professionalism of our community when you behave like that. So you may have a bunch of millennials that follow you. You may have people who have struggled with eating disorders that follow you. Stay away from me and my company, or address me politely, professionally, and respectfully. Alex Turoff, another person that I have so much disappointment in. I brought this woman into my office as an intern. And after she interned, she remained very close to me. She bought the F Factor products. She posted the F Factor products. She came to my office when we moved. She bought me birthday presents. She reposted all this. When she came to visit me, she posted it. But somehow the year that they tried to cancel me, Alex Turoff, an intern, all of a sudden is voicing out about the dangers of F Factor. In fact, the show The Doctors said, are you willing to come on? And I said, I'm not. And they go, well, Alex Turoff is going to come on and speak against you. I said, excuse me? This girl that's 25 years younger than me that was my intern, all of a sudden she is going on a national TV show to speak out against me and F Factor when I opened my doors to her to give her an internship. And then it turns out that Alex suffered from eating disorders, but didn't mention that when she came to be an intern, and then suggest that F Factor gave her an eating disorder. It's no different than the girl, what's her name? Sammy? I always forget. That went on the Today Show and said that F Factor gave her an eating disorder. Guys, diets do not give people eating disorders. They just don't. People that take diets too far get eating disorders. And F Factor is a high fiber, high protein diet that's been endorsed by doctors and by professors. So it is sound and it is safe. And I'm sorry for anyone that has such an unhealthy relationship with food or takes something to such an extreme that they harm themselves. My heart breaks for you. But to blame me for your eating disorder is like me following someone on social media and blaming them for poor legal advice because they're a lawyer. It doesn't work like that. And yes, people with ED seek out diets because they love the control that comes with structure. That is understood. And I agree. That's the age group, and there's no responsibility for the choices. I mean, nothing was more clear to me than Alexis Barber, a young woman, 2021, that says that she followed me on social media and got an eating disorder and was so public about it and went on Emily Gellis's lives until they had a falling out. And I'm like, how could I give you an eating disorder? I don't know you. You're not my client. I didn't prescribe you a program that caused an eating disorder. And I asked her, did you follow the book? And she said, no, I had it, but I followed you instead. I said, so you had a prescribed program in your hands, but you chose to ignore that and follow social media instead for diet advice? I was shocked. And then, do you know what this woman did, this young woman? She taped me without my consent. Have you ever taped a conversation without someone's consent? What does that say about her? And I wrote back to her this past week and I said, I'd like to speak with you. She blocked me. Blocked me. She had no trouble talking all about me day and night. But now, where I'm strong and I want to have a polite conversation with her, she blocked me. Same with Aileen from The Diet Starts Tomorrow. They were very eager to get me on their show. She was very eager to get me into their podcast room for a taping and ask me really pointed, nasty questions. But now that I reached out to Aileen, I said, I'd like to revisit this and speak with you. She's reading my DMs and not responding. These women are cowards. And they used F Factor to advance themselves. They used my name and my company to make a name for themselves. Because if Aileen truly cared, she would write me back. She would say, Tanya, let's speak about this. I'm a grown woman. I have a responsibility to address this because I've done 5 podcasts about F Factor. 5, including interviewing Emily Gellis and giving her a microphone to spread her lies and the rumors about the products being unsafe. And now that the products have been proven safe, because they've always been safe, Aileen, do you think you should owe me or my company an apology or a retraction? No. These girls just move on. And that's what's so destructive about what they did. It was a day in the news cycle for them. It was a moment to use F Factor to bring attention to them and their platforms. And then they moved on. And that's why everyone says, Tanya, why can't you move on? Because I'm still dealing with the damage. Because my company has not come back. Because I still have to rebuild. Because I still have nightmares. Because I still have PTSD. That's why I cannot move on as much as I try. And I'm still in therapy and I'm doing the work. I am trying to move on. But I am still dealing with the aftermath and I still have yet to receive apologies from these people who are involved. And I know that many of these women will never apologize because true narcissists, sociopaths will never apologize. They don't see that they are wrong. Emily Gellis to this day will tell anyone that what she did was right. Even though she said the Department of Justice was coming for me, she said that she had tens of thousands of victims. We never recalled the product, Emily. How do you piece this together? It's one thing that you're going to say people are scared to come forward, but where are all the government agencies? Why is the FDA not involved? Or why is, and by the way, the bars are a food. So if F Factor's tainted, you could say, well, the FDA doesn't regulate supplements. That's true. But the bars, the F Factor bars are a food. And there's no difference in the fiber that we used. So the FDA certainly could have come after F Factor, but they didn't. Because there's nothing to come after. Because the products were always safe. So what's crazy is I believe till this day, Emily Gellis is proud of what she did. She has no remorse for the fact that I almost took my life. And what's so interesting about Emily Gellis is that she talks about mental health. It's like a big thing for her, mental health. And yet I have been public that I almost took my life because of her and has no sensitivity to the fact that she destroyed my mental health for a year. And my mother, who's on here, can tell you, my mom would have to come and hold me. I could not eat, I could not sleep, I could not breathe, I could not function. And one time I came on camera, forced myself to come on camera, and I was rail thin. And Emily Gellis took a screenshot of my appearance and wrote, healthy, question mark, whatever it was. making fun of how thin I was when that level of thinness was a byproduct of her abuse. This woman is an animal. I have never seen anyone more cruel in my life, more vicious, more unhinged, more obsessed. But she is the definition of a narcissistic sociopath. I've looked it up. She's not well. And I cannot believe the people that gave her a microphone. The Diet Starts Tomorrow, shame on you. The New York Times, shame on you. You emboldened a sociopath. You emboldened a woman to spread lies without facts. There were no facts here. Emily Gellis never asked for doctor reports. Isn't it interesting, with all of the anti-diet, intuitive eating experts Emily Gellis had on, Lisa Moskovitz, Rebecca Bear, Lisa Hayem, there was not one medical expert that spoke on her platform, not one cardiologist, endocrinologist, autoimmune expert, not one medical expert. You want to know why? No one would go on this girl's platform that has any credentials in health and wellness that speak to facts. There's a certificate of analysis. There was a toxicology report, and she would not back down. Refused. Kept going and going. Why? Because you're getting complaints over DMs? And I always say this. If you're going to complain about F Factor, let's think about it. Who are you going to write to? I would write to the Better Business Bureau. I would write to Katie Couric. I would write to Dr. Oz. I would write to the Today Show. I'm not going to write to a 35-year-old woman who sells beanies from her couch. That's who I'm not going to write to. A woman that has zero medical credentials, zero nutrition credentials, and clearly, based on what I've seen, how she eats, has the worst relationship with food that I've ever seen, and with body image. This is who you're going to send complaints about F Factor to? Someone that's completely unrelated to my company? It makes no sense. No one with more than 2 brain cells would ever send a complaint about F Factor to Emily Gellis, someone that is completely unrelated to my company and who is not an investigative journalist and who, frankly, isn't much of anything professionally. But she's too much of a narcissist to see that she got played. And now she is sitting with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Please do not be fooled by the fact that I'm suing her for $500,000. You have to give a number to enter into a certain level of court. When it's all said and done, I am not suing Emily for $500,000. I will be suing her for tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions of dollars. And once I repay my legal bills, and once I repay my company for losses, any dollar that I could ever win will go to charity. That I assure you. I give you my word. Once there's restitution to my company, once there is restitution to the legal bills and the crisis management bills, every dollar will go to charity. This is not about money to me. This is about making sure that this sociopath, this menace to society, does not do this to another human being again. But she's so proud of the fact that she is going to file for bankruptcy. That's her big out. And it's pretty consistent with who she is. No accountability for her actions. Taking a shortcut. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Healthy with Nettie did not turn away. I turned away from Healthy with Nettie. And that's all I'll say about that. Just reading your comments. And by the way, there is no restitution in the world that she could ever repay me for the year and a half of my life that I lost. There is no restitution. And yeah, I'm not done. I agree at Factor Facts. Ingrid de la Merkenny is very involved, and we are looking how to sue her. It's not done. My first lawyers didn't think that we could reach her in Monaco, but we are not done. And we have the discovery that shows her involvement in this. And ultimately, guys, facts are facts. And innuendos are innuendos. And that's what these women have. These women have anecdotes, innuendos, they have DMs, and we actually have paper trails. Who makes the sweater? It's called, it's so hard to pronounce. Take a screenshot. So, thank you guys. I know, Dara. Dara, you've seen it all. What's funny is Dara, who used to be my personal assistant, and we've remained so close. I'm so proud to say I signed her ketubah. She actually reached out to Lisa Hayim and said, why are you doing this? This was like even before Emily Gellis. And Lisa Hayim wrote her the nastiest DM back. This girl is just nasty. Just a cruel, nasty girl. And Dara said, like, you don't even know her. She's like, if you have a problem with Tanya, call her. And the response that Lisa wrote to Dara was so vile. And this was before Emily. I was like, oh my God, who is this girl? What is her problem? Yeah, so that's that. Right, Dara said, go to the source. Because Dara's mature. And she was hoping Lisa could be mature. And she said, I know Tanya, just go to Tanya if you have all these issues, but why are you making reels about her? Why are you posting about her? Right, Dara said it really nicely. She's like, wow, you seem to be very concerned about F Factor, Lisa. Why don't you reach out to Tanya directly? Correct, Jen. Anyhow, I love you, Jen. All right, guys. Yeah, exactly, Meg. No, Anthony reached out to Emily Gellis when this whole thing started. Emily blocked me immediately. So you could see she did not want a conversation, right? As soon as she started, she blocked me, which was the craziest thing. If I was getting complaints about someone's company, the first thing I would do is reach out to them and be like, I don't know why people are sending me complaints. I have nothing to do with your company, but I want you to know about them. That's what a normal, well-wishing woman person does. Emily blocked me and she started to say that the products were unsafe. So Anthony reached out to her and said, you've blocked my wife, but please get in touch with us. And then she blocked him and blasted him. The nerve of Anthony to reach out to her. No, my husband loves me and is concerned about me, and you've blocked me. How else am I supposed to get in touch with you? So, just so crazy. And yes, Kara, you are 100% correct. 100. All right, guys. You guys are asking about a lot of names, and some are more important than others. And what I don't want to do is just be here to fuel gossip. There are people that have completely failed me and let me down, and maybe in their eyes, I let them down. There's two sides to every story. I don't want to go through every single name. And I'm mentioning the ones that directly came for F Factor. Other people were just gross disappointments. And it felt very usurious. That when F Factor was on top of the world, they were obsessed with F Factor, promoting F Factor every day. And the second that F Factor was being attacked, they turned their back on me and the company. And that's that. We don't need to give it any more energy. You guys know exactly who those people are. Let's not try and stir the pot any more than needs to happen. So when you guys ask about names, I feel like it's being done in a way that is just trying to stir the pot, and that's not necessary. As I said, you guys know the names. I don't need to speak to them. And I agree with F Factor Facts. Emily Gellis actually went to these people and she tagged them and said, if you don't denounce her, I'm coming for you next. That's what happened. She did it to Olivia Culpo. She did it to Megyn Kelly. She did it to the influencers that, had F Factor pages. And she basically said, if you don't denounce her, I'm going to come for you next. And these people were more concerned about their followings than their loyalty. Because on a dime, they turned on me. And these are women whose pages were dedicated to F Factor, their success on F Factor. Correct.